friends, my name is Jo and welcome to my Bookish Corner. I'm so glad you're here. I've been making videos for a couple months now, but I thought it was about time to actually officially introduce myself. So this is a little video about me and some of my reading preferences, specifically to give you an idea of what to expect on my channel. So grab a drink, get cozy, and we'll get started. Cheers! My drink of choice today is a banana bread latte with banana cold foam. I actually have not taken a sip yet, so let's test her out. Yep, that hits the spot. This is some homemade banana bread syrup. If you're interested in the recipe, let me know. Just a quick introduction to me, like I mentioned, my name is Jo. Hi. I am in my mid-20s living in the Midwest with my husband. I am currently a full-time student working on getting my bachelor's degree, but I also work part-time and then am doing bookish things as well. I love coffee, books, and really just anything cozy, so if any of that sounds like your style, you are in the right place. My goal with this channel is to create a warm, cozy, inviting space to connect with readers, discuss books, and generally just cozify life. We'll have book reviews, coffee recipes, cozy adventures, and probably loads of other cozy things. Maybe some cozy video games, maybe just some cozy hobbies. Your girl really wants to learn how to crochet. Anyway, to help anyone who's interested learn a little bit more about my bookish taste and what to expect regarding the bookish content on this channel, I decided to answer a few questions. I think these are technically from the 20 question book tag, but I wasn't tagged or anything. I just thought they were good questions to get an idea of someone's book taste. So I'm going to answer these questions. If there are any other questions you have about me, my book taste, hobbies, what this channel is about, feel free to leave a comment and I will absolutely answer those. So let's get started. The first question is, how many books are too many for a series? Now this, I think, is super relative because some series only have like 4 books, but each book is huge. So I don't really have a maximum number for a series. As a kid, I loved Magic Treehouse, and that's probably got like 100 books in it, maybe more. So I think something like Warrior Cats gets a little confusing for me, and so I prefer series when they are straightforward books 1 through 10 or whatever that may be, instead of having to figure out reading order to read this series but also this series and they're kind of happening at the same time. That's when I get a little confused, and I'm not the biggest fan of that style, but I don't think that there are really too many books in a series. It totally depends on how, like, where the plot is going to go, how long it's going to take to get there, that kind of thing. How do I feel about cliffhangers? See, if there are more books coming, 100% cliffhanger is fun. I don't like being left on a cliffhanger when the rest of the series isn't released yet, because books take exponentially longer to come out than a lot of other forms of media. So I will forget everything that happened if the rest of the series isn't out yet, but that is personally me. I try to read a completed series if I can, because I know that if the whole series isn't out, I will probably forget that I started it and will never finish it. So cliffhangers are a yes if it's within a series and the series is completed for me. Hardcover or paperback? Again, these questions are so hard because, like, hardcovers usually, I think, are prettier. Usually they have more design to them. Paperbacks are easier to carry around, easier to read, like, out and about, because usually they're a little smaller, they're a little more flexible. So I think hardcovers are gorgeous and paperbacks are more functional. I realize that I don't think I've given a fully straight answer to any of these questions yet, of like yes or no, this or that. But the next question is, what's your favorite book? And usually I give 3 answers to this question because my 3 favorites are in very different genres, and I think each have their own place. Can't rank any of them above the others because they're so different. So my favorites are the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I understand that it's a trilogy and not a book. If I have to pick a book, my favorite book is The Return of the King. Persuasion by Jane Austen. I love that book. That is my favorite book by Jane Austen. It's so good. I come back and reread that book so often. And The Book Thief, which is another of my favorites. I have not reread it in a really long time, but I have loved that book for ages. I love the writing of it. I love the way the story is told. It felt very unique when I first read it, and it continues to feel unique in the storytelling and the concept, and it's just beautiful. So those are my 3 favorite books. They just feel different enough that I can't pick one of them to be the favorite, so I usually give all 3. My least favorite book. I don't usually like to rag on books. Like, if I don't like a book, I will tell you why, but I fully understand that I will dislike a book that other people like. Lately, I have been trying to give myself the grace to put aside books that I don't like and not finish them, because there's only so much time in your life to read the books you want to read, and there are so many books I want to read, so I don't want to spend time reading books that I'm not enjoying. So, my least favorite book. Here, we'll go with my least favorite recent book that I finished. I finished The Maui Effect this summer, and that was a 1-star read for me, and that's probably the least favorite recently. I have DNF'd multiple books recently as well, but I don't want to count those because I haven't finished them. So I'll say The Maui Effect is my least favorite for now. I can't think of older books that I've read and really disliked. I think I just kind of pushed them out of my memory. Favorite genres? I think my all-time favorite is fantasy, absolutely. That's the most that I've read in. I really enjoy going into different worlds and the world building that most fantasy books have. It's really fun for me. So fantasy is definitely my top genre. I think that's where I'll find most of the books that I read. I also like literary fiction and like general fiction, so I would say my top are fantasy and historical fiction with a little bit of literary fiction and general fiction kind of spattered in there. Fantasy definitely takes the cake for that one though. What is the most recent book you couldn't finish? This is actually very recent because I decided like today or yesterday that I wasn't going to finish this book, and it is The Fall of Giants by Ken Follett. I have it right here. This was a book that I owned and was part of my TBR for August. I got 145 pages in and just decided that it wasn't for me. The writing style wasn't my favorite. I didn't love the characters. Specifically, the way that the female characters were written was not my favorite. So I decided that this 850 page book, I don't want to spend the time to get through it when I'm not having the most fun, because this is a trilogy and they are all this big or bigger. So this is my most recent book that I did not finish. A book that I'm currently reading is actually The Emperor of Nihonja by John Flanagan, and that is book 10 in the Ranger's Apprentice series. I've been rereading the Ranger's Apprentice series over this past summer, which has been super fun. It's a children's fantasy series, but I really loved it as a child, and so I wanted to reread it. The last book that I recommended to someone, I think, was actually Persuasion by Jane Austen, that like I in person recommended someone read. I will always recommend Persuasion, especially if you've already read some Jane Austen books and like them. Oldest book I've read by publication date, I think, well, I've read the Bible. That's pretty old. But like published books, I think maybe The Story of King Arthur and His Knights. I have started the Odyssey, but I never finished it, so I don't think that that would count. And I read some of Sherlock Holmes, but I don't know when that one was published either. Let me look that up. Sherlock Holmes actually wins. Sherlock Holmes was published in 1887. The Story of King Arthur and His Knights was published in 1903. It's very possible that I've read older books, but those are the ones that I can... Oh my gosh. Just kidding. Persuasion was published in 1817. So that might be the oldest. Honestly, I've probably read older books, but I'm not great at looking at publication dates, so I don't know what they would be. But my Jane Austen books probably take the cake for oldest, I think, because those were published in the early 1800s. So, plus the Bible. That's also an old one. Love triangles, yes or no? Love triangles are a hard pass for me. They just frustrate me because it feels like typically you know pretty early on which one they're going to choose. So it just feels like the other person is being led on, and that is not fun for me. So if it's a subplot in a book and it's not lasting for super long, like they choose pretty quickly, I'm okay with it. But if the love triangle is kind of the whole point of the series or book or whatever it is, it's just not my favorite. They just frustrate me. So love triangles are a hard pass for me. Newest book that I've read. Let's see. I think the newest book that I've read lately is Air by Sabaa Tahir. I didn't know that it was new when I picked it up and when I started reading it. And so I finished it and it ended on a cliffhanger and I was like, where's book two? Where's book two? And the publication date for that is like this year and I read it last fall. So that was a very sad moment for me. I think that's the newest book I've read because this year I've been working on reading books that I already own and working through my shelf. So I haven't been reading a lot of new releases. But I'm really hoping to get into some new releases kind of this fall and winter. My favorite author. Favorite author is definitely Jane Austen. I love all of her books. Scratch that. I love most of her books. We can discuss which ones I don't love later. But Jane Austen is probably my absolute favorite author. Her books are just so refreshing and fun. And that's kind of all I have to say about that one. That's a very easy answer for me. Buying books or borrowing books? I think that there is a time and a space for both. I think books are a very valuable thing to own and to have possession of, a physical copy of a book. I also think that libraries are so important and that borrowing books is such a great way to gain exposure to lots of books without spending a ton of money, to support publication and dispersion of literature to everybody. I think that libraries are so important and absolutely should be supported, and I love going to the library, and it's such a fun way for me to try out different books that I'm not sure I'll love, because if I don't love it, I don't necessarily want it on my shelf. So I absolutely love to buy books and own them and be able to come back and reread them, but I also think that borrowing books is a great way to gain exposure to a lot of different books and keep a bookish hobby without spending a fortune. A book you dislike that everyone else seems to love. Okay, I have seen a lot of online love for this book, and to each their own. If you love it, own that. That's awesome. I read it and could not stand it. The Assistant to the Villain, I was so excited for because I loved the idea, and I feel like I've heard jokes and seen skits made of this concept, and they're always so funny and fun, and the execution just did not feel well done. I did read the whole book. I did not read the rest of the series, but The Assistant to the Villain was a very disappointing read for me. It felt like it needed to go through 3 or 4 more editing stages to really be what it could and had the potential to be. Bookmarks or dog ears? Bookmarks 100%. I will always go bookmarks over dog earing. A book I can always reread. Is it repetitive if I say Persuasion again? Because I can reread that book 2 days after I just reread it. I'm not kidding. Sometimes I will read that book twice in a row. It is so good and I love it so much. Can you read while listening to music? Yes, absolutely. That is one of my favorite ways to read. I love an ambiance for reading, so putting on either instrumental or just really cozy, vibey music, like Cozy Coffee Shop or something like that. Put on like a crackling fireplace on the TV so you get that kind of sound. I'll light a candle, have a fun drink. Absolutely, I can listen to music while I read. Aside from reading, music is probably one of my favorite things, and I always have music on. Always, always, always. One POV or multiple POVs? POV stands for point of view. I definitely prefer multiple points of view. I feel like it gives a more rounded perspective on the story when you get to see things from different characters' perspectives. I also think that multiple POVs is more often used in fantasy because usually there are a lot of characters, a lot of world building. It's a better way to understand the world and the fantastical elements. So I think I'm also used to that. But I really love when an author can tell the same story from different sides and you can understand and empathize with both sides, even if they're opposed to each other. I love when an author can do that. So I love a really well done multiple POV book. How long on average does it take me to finish a book? This has a lot of factors to it. Of course, how long the book is, what I have going on in life while I'm trying to read it. I think if I could just sit down and read a book, usually about a day. I don't usually. Usually it takes me longer than that because I'm reading for an hour or two a day. And then it would typically take me about a week to finish a book. That is all the questions that we have in this little introduction to me. So if you have any additional questions, like I said, leave a comment. I'd be happy to do another video doing just a general Q&A, or I'll just respond to your comment with an answer to your question. So absolutely leave your questions below. If my preferences and tastes reflect yours, be sure to subscribe to my channel because I will be talking about the books that I love and sharing my thoughts on them. Obviously sharing some coffee recipes because book girlies need their coffee. Subscribe if any of that sounds fun to you, and I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to my Bookish Corner.